Seven, six, five, four, three, two, one.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother.
All right, welcome to podcast number 6. Today we're going to be taking a look at innovation in acting with Victoria Spencer-Smith. Victoria Spencer-Smith has been a powerhouse since joining Women in Film in Atlanta. She's taken on a new leadership role in developing a series of topics designed to help actors sharpen their skill set. It's called The Actor's Track. In addition, we'll be taking a look at 2 books today. If you're wanting to break into the market, that is You Can Act by D.W. Brown, and also The Actor's Art and Craft by William Esper and Damien DiMarco. Look forward to discussing these topics. Welcome. We are live. This is Nevada Smith, the innovator. We're talking to Victoria Spencer-Smith.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Nevada?
So the topic we're going to be talking about today is really the what we're doing in the acting scene and what's really innovative, what's happening innovatively in that acting scene. So why don't you start off with talking a little bit about yourself so that we can give an introduction of who you are.
I'm an actor for a living. I'm originally from Atlanta, so I have a little bit of knowledge about how the Atlanta community works. I also teach Actors Track at Women in Film, which is also in Atlanta. And I also am writing and starting to dabble in a little producing right now. What I think really makes a difference as what I do is that every single thing I do is based on connection. And I think as long as you feel you're providing a service in each of those areas and you're connected to the people who you're providing a service to, that's the greatest thing.
All right, so what do you think you define yourself as an actress in Atlanta? Are there any other, I know you do a lot of things, so do you just consider yourself as an actress?
Well, no, I also mentioned that I'm a coach as well. The Actor's Track is really important to me because it brings in old and new as far as where they are as an actor, and it kind of helps immerse them into what they need to work on. And I think as an actor, we all should stay in training. And if we stay in training, when the opportunity comes, we'll be ready for it. So what I do at the Actors Track is just help people engage more with the work and merge themselves with the piece of work in the storytelling. It's important to me because of a lot of reasons, but mainly because it gives beginning actors, intermediate actors and advanced actors an opportunity to work in their area without someone critiquing them, without someone really judging the work, and gives them opportunity to just kind of hone their craft a little more through Women in Film. We also do something at the Atlanta Mission. We're working with them to do Monologue Madness once a week, not the 4th, but the 14th of February that week, so that we can give back to the community as well through, it's called Actors and Connections for Hope, and that provides the Atlanta Mission with a platform to raise money based on actors doing performance with a monologue. So that's starting to grow as well, and we're giving back to the community.
So what do you think your key is, in your opinion, to having staying power as a professional affiliated with the entertainment industry, especially in Atlanta?
Staying power is important. We lived in LA for a couple of years, and Sean Connery talked to our class, and I'm just going to do a couple of plugs here. I was working with Joanne Barron and D.W. Brown and Elaine Williams at the Meisner studio there, which is called the Joanne Barron Meisner Studio. And so Sean Connery talked to our class and basically said, if you want to be in this business, you want to do it well, you have to not give up, because you could be giving up right before that big break comes. So I kind of really took that to heart, and now I just know that the next opportunity will come as long as I'm honing my craft, providing a service to people in the community and doing what's right for myself and my family at the same time, which is sometimes a tricky balance because sometimes I book work when we're on vacation and then have to fly back from vacation or drive back. And it's not always great for the family, but they're starting to understand that that's the commitment. That's where I am. And this is what drives me, is providing a service to producers and casting directors and my agent. And then they also give back to me. So I think the important part of it is staying on top of it, being committed, do the work, which is stay in class. If you're not auditioning at least once a week, you should be in a class. And always have an open heart and mind to be able to stay in, because sometimes it takes a little bit of tenacity to stay in.
So in you talked a lot about staying in class. Why do you think that's so important for individuals just to be trained and understand exactly what they're doing? In all industries, I think lifetime learning is important. Is it the same in acting?
It is. So if you were going to get your appendix taken out tomorrow, would you like to have the person who's just starting as a surgeon, or would you like to have who didn't go to training, didn't go to medical school, or do you want the surgeon that actually has some experience doing this surgery? So I equate it to that. So if you're coming to me and you want a professional and you want someone who can deliver, then I want all those actors that are involved in the actors track to be able to deliver as well. And that means whether or not we do a lot of taping in Atlanta now, which is sad because we don't get into the room a lot. But because of that, some actors feel that they can do 20, 50 takes to get it right. But the reality is, if you're not honed enough to get it right on the first, second, or third tapings, and those you could provide as adjustments to send to casting, then when you get into the room with people, it's going to freak you out and you're going to be unnerved and come unglued, and then you may not give your best performance. But by being trained and working the instrument all the time, you're able to provide exactly what you need to provide in that work.
So you talked about practice in taping. So on the tapes, then you said you could take 4 or 5 of those. So when you're taping like that, and versus being in front of a live set of people to do those auditions, how do you make sure you get it right on the first go? Because it sounds to me like you've only got one chance at that.
Part of getting that right is preparation. So the last class I taught for women in film at the actors track was about 5 lines and under. Basically, if we're supporting actors in the Atlanta market, it's growing. I'm starting to get more and more opportunities as larger roles come. So those are going to come. But the fact that a lot of times we get 5 lines and under, we need to be able to deliver that 1 line or up to 5 lines as if, based on the story, as if the same work ethic and the same doing the work as far as being prepared, that has to happen before you go into your taping. Whether or not you're trading with a friend or whether or not you're actually working with a group that's a taping service, it doesn't really matter. If it's a taping service, you're not going to get the 20 or 50 takes. But the problem with that, and depending on that, is that those 2 or 3 adjustments, you have to know how to do this work. If someone gives you an adjective or gives you an adjustment, you have to know how to just take what you've already prepared and move it into something totally different. If you can't do that and you get on set, then deer in the headlights. Recently, a lot of actors are getting fired off sets because their tapings look great. They hire them, they had the right look as well, and then they get on set and they have no idea what to do in the adjustment, which is wasting money, wasting time for the producer. So you need to be prepared enough so that you could do something different with that piece of work.
So you talked about the adjustments, and can you give us an example of what an adjustment would be, maybe one of your recent auditions?
Yeah, an adjustment is just So if I'm doing a piece and I have to be mad at my husband in that piece or my boyfriend, and I'm delivering this angry type of approach to it, but it's kind of subtle. If the director said, okay, now I want it completely over the top and angry to the point of you're just ready to strangle that person. So now what I have to do is when I have to prepare all those levels. As Joanne Baron, D.W. Brown, and Elaine Williams would say at Joanne Baron's studio, Meisner studio in LA, in Santa Monica actually, you have to prepare all that in the body. And then when you get on set or you get in the room to audition, all that work is living in you through that piece. So if I haven't prepared for the subtle anger, or if I haven't prepared for the over-the-top raging kind of anger in the room, I may not get there. So that has to already be pre-set up. As far as adjustments go and taping adjustments, I like to do at least 2 if I'm allowed. Some casting directors say we only want 1 taping. Others say we'd like to see an adjustment. You have to already prepare something different, because if you send it and it's very similar to the initial taping, then they don't get to see what you could have done if they were in the room with you and got to deliver some information and change your performance.
So in the Atlanta market, what do you think is the major things that are going on right now? Is there more acting opportunities coming to Atlanta? And if there are, how do you actually make sure that you're going to be at the forefront of those opportunities?
Well, that's going to take an agent to start out. So you need to be prepared when you go and audition for an agent. Once you have the agent and they're submitting you for opportunities, you just, like I said before, have to be really prepared. Other than that, Atlanta is growing, but we're still dealing with not enough crews to go around. So there's a lot of television in Atlanta or outside of Atlanta now and in the Southeast. And so we may not have enough A-line crews to go around to all these different things, which includes films and television shows. So because of that, we're starting to train actors and other crew members in Atlanta to be prepared. The crew opportunity is great, because if you get trained to be a crew member and then eventually after a couple of years with working with these guys who have been around a while and girls who have been around a while, then you move up the rank. Then eventually you can work on a set that's a big budgeted set, whether it's television or film. But the reality is we're still getting the supporting roles because we do not have the support yet. So once we have the support, these people who are coming to Georgia for the tax incentive will be able to, the producers, executive producers will be able to say, hey, now we can hire larger roles in Atlanta or out of Atlanta, due to the fact that we're not now hiring our initial crew, our A-line crews out of Atlanta. Right now it's happening is they're bringing their crew and their actors, and a lot of times those bigger roles, larger supporting roles with them already. Granted, it cuts into their cost of production because they could come to Atlanta and hire us. But if they're thinking that we're not prepared once they audition us or see us on tape, then they're going to be hedgy on hiring more local Atlanta actors. The reality is a lot of people are moving here from LA and New York to get the work, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the Atlanta actors who have been around a while and studied in New York and LA and other places can't deliver. It's just that we have to be prepared and show we can deliver. Now, I just happen to be lucky and trained in Los Angeles as well as Atlanta with great coaches, Rob Mello locally, another Meisner coach, Joanne Baron, D.W. Brown, like I said before, Elaine Williams in Los Angeles, who I highly recommend. There's a coach here that no one really knows, Adam Stoner, which I highly recommend. And then there's Lucina Longo Stoneburner, and her husband, John, have been around for a while, and they have a company called the Company Acting Studio. Different types of training, but if you can get well versed in all of those, then you have an opportunity to, if one of your methods wear out, you can go to the other method, which I do all the time. I have to do that. If I have to cry on set for 4 hours and then I lose the tears, I have to go to something else, which is sometimes called a substitution. But in Meisner's world, I just use my imagination and it may stay fluid for me. So it depends on what works for you as an actor, but it also depends on what you're willing to invest your money in. I think the best investment, other than marketing tools like photos, are training and teachers and good classes. I do a little bit of coaching on the side right now, but because I was working on a master and still I am in applied theater, I don't have a lot of time. But when I get the opportunity to work with local actors and coach them one-on-one, they end up doing a great job, and then their ratios of bookings can go up. But I don't like, just like Rob Mello said recently at Women in Film when he came as a guest, it's not about booking, it's about respecting the craft and respecting the work. And when you see yourself as a surgeon and you're giving someone an opportunity to take their work and their story to the next level, then they know when they see that, they see you work. They may not be able to use you in that role because they hire someone older, younger, taller, thinner, whatever. It doesn't really matter. They'll remember that you are good. And that's what happens when casting directors start calling you in for more opportunities and you're kind of the go-to guy or girl that they want to see in their mix. That goes to producers, which means they could go up to the top 3 to 5, and then they decide on that. And at that point, they might look at your resume and also look at your reel, and they may also look at your IMDb page. But I've had friends get hired who have been trained who didn't have a lot on their resume just because they looked right, but they also were well trained locally, which meant that they knew what to do when they got on set, so they didn't have a risk of getting fired when on set. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it was pretty long. So you brought a couple of books with you today, talking about different things for acting. You've got 2 there. So let's talk about the You Can Act first, and tell me something that you're getting from these books. We talk a lot about lifetime learning in other industries, and it sounds like it's highly important there as well. So tell me a little bit about that book.
Well, one of the books, which is You Can Act, this is by one of my coaches in Los Angeles, D.W. Brown. I actually trained with him, so I know what he teaches and how great he is, and his wife, Joanne Barron. But the important part about the books and why I would recommend them is that it takes you on the journey. So you can be in class, but if you forget some of the journey that you were on in class with technique, you can go back to this book and rely on this book, because you can go back, and a lot of times we forget, like, how did I get there? I mean, you might remember the general basis of what got me to a role at a certain period of time in your life, but you may not remember the really minutia type of things you need to pull out, and that is where the book comes in. I love this book because it's very straightforward. It has a lot of it has great photos of some celebrities as well as D.W. Brown, who also came from an acting background. And they were trained by William Esper out of New York City. So William Esper I recommend as well, because it's the basis for this Meisner work. A lot of people, there's still some old-timers around that came from pure Stanislavski or, pure Meisner work, but as pure as I've seen in recent years and close to, one of the nicest guys was William Esper. He actually came and did a book signing in Los Angeles when I was living there, and through Joanne Barron and D.W. Brown's group there, and he's amazing. And I actually sat next to Cloris Leachman, who's an amazing Meisner actress as well, who really talked highly of the man. I didn't actually train with him, but I think if I'm going to get secondary training, it's a really clear way to go, because it gives you the tools and gives you a lot of opportunity to really see what it means. Some people go, what is repeat? What's repetition? And I'm like, Well, it's not, Meisner work is not really about that. It's really about connecting to the person who's across from you so you don't have to substitute, you just connect to them. And yeah, in your head, if you go, oh yeah, but right now it's my husband, your imagination will take you to that's your husband or that's your son or that's your best friend or your sister or brother. You just have to know that that's what Meisner work does. It doesn't wear out. And if you are fluid in believing your imagination, there's actually research on this. Your brain doesn't know the difference when you imagine. Children. You look at children's brains when they are playing cowboy and Indians or they're pretending to be Buzz Lightyear. And it looks exactly the same, lit up in exactly the same way that we light up under a lie detector. So whether it's true or false. So it's not that different. So if you believe what you're saying, then you will believe the story you're telling and trying to convey for a producer, director, in the piece, in the work. So I think it's an opportunity to get the best training, pull it in, and what works for you. Someone might prefer the method over Meisner or prefer Adler over Meisner, but it doesn't really matter as long as you're fluid in the work and you can produce it when you need to.
So Meisner specifically, what's drawn you to the Meisner technique versus some of the other techniques?
I had the technique of being a method actor before, so kind of like Dustin Hoffman, who laid on floors for, getting the feeling of being in jail for real and live the life, or go out on the street and be homeless for a while, like Holly Hunter, dig into that kind of work. But at times the method can cause you to kind of stray from who you are. And also, nothing against method, I use both. But Meisner doesn't, because it offers an opportunity to create from the imagination, and the imagination can just go on for days. I'm sure these other actors who are celebrity actors can, switch and do methods all day long. Some don't even have methods, but I guarantee you they probably had a scene study class that they were involved in, and they had other actors to work off who were great, who would move them to a higher level. So I do think it's important to study the craft and find your one. The reason why I would recommend William Esper's book is because, number one, I've read it, but and he has another one after this, which is digging a little more into the character, which is in the second year work of Meisner work if you go to a studio and train. But the reality is, even Robin Wright, she did this work. She trained at Joanne Barron's D.W. Brown studio years ago and started booking work and couldn't finish the actual training. But William Esper goes into detail about the craft and what it takes, and just the lessons of why it matters, and some of Stanislavski's stuff about using the magic gift. And this goes back years and years ago from Stanislavski, and it's based on that. So it's based on the group of people with the actor studio. If you look at any of their work and you go to any of their books, you can start pulling together what method works for you, and then find an on-set coach or someone that you feel comfortable with. And lots of times you have to audition to get into some of the local studios because they're looking for someone who's trainable, who's open enough to take the information and use it. And that's what I love about working at the Actors Track is all these women show up, whether beginning, intermediate, or advanced, to hone their craft. And if they're brand new, they're coming to me saying, I don't really know what to do. How can you help me? And I can show them. And a lot of times it's just about being you and knowing who you are. If you don't know who you are yet and you can't be authentic, then that makes it difficult to actually do this work, because it is a craft and you are merging this story and this information into you and what your years of living on this planet, on Earth, if it's Earth, can do for us, right? So that makes me different than another lady who's in the same age category who has different life experiences. So you have to know coming in, you're bringing you into the room. And if you can be authentic into who you are, you can take these books and take this training and then merge them together. And I'm not saying schizophrenically. I'm just saying merge the work together so that you portray the character through you authentically. And then you'll book work, which is, always great.
So you talked a lot about groups of people, and I know that you've got a support group around you as far as actors go, that you all help everybody out. So talk a little bit about how you bring together a group of supporting people that are around you that help you with tapings and cross off, do scenes against each other and things like that.
Well, the Actors Track is one opportunity, and I bring in a lot of professionals that are local to Atlanta because I think it's important. Not everyone hears the same thing through different people's mouth and through their body language. So it's important to bring in different people who can convey the message just a little differently, and maybe you hear it a little differently. But I also believe that by having a support group that you work with or train with, you can do trades. And, I put my friend Leonard on tape, and then he does a trade, and he puts me on tape. And then if he needs to get out some photos from some other coaches' students locally, then I can go and help him do that. But we kind of are open to assisting each other. It not only I coached him, he came from like a singing stage background, so he then learned from me how to coach me, which is really important to me because now he can say, I don't know, let's do this, and he adjusts me. I want you to try this, and then I try that, and then it works. So the last 2 bookings I've gotten have been, actually probably the last 3 this year, have been through taping with my friend Leonard because he knows how to coach me. And he books as well because I know how to coach him. So it's important to have like a group. Sometimes you meet that group in classes. Sometimes you meet that at Women in Film. Sometimes you meet those people because you're drawn to the same thing and you're attending SAG meetings, whether you're a SAG member or not, if it's an open meeting, or you're attending other kind of seminar, workshop things, and you meet other people. But I think at the end of the day, it's important to have a group, and also for the group not to do anything that makes you feel outside of the group. If that occurs, then you can look for a new group because there's plenty of new groups around. I think it's important to do a lot of different things, though. I really like a lot of different groups in Atlanta. I would recommend improv, especially if you're starting out as a commercial actor, which a lot of new agents now will take new talent in, and sometimes they kind of just try them in the commercial end, and then if they see that the casting directors are going to start pulling them in more and more, then they'll move them and try them to television and film. But if they're not trained and they get a great agent, that agent, if they can't get you into casting eventually, will not be able to keep you on their roster because it costs them so much money. And it is, I learned this in Los Angeles the hard way, but it is really up to you to do 80% of the work as a working actress or actor, and they do 20, which means they're submitting you. They ask you for new photos if they need more photos. But they're waiting, if they know you're good, for you to pick up a television series. They know that eventually with the right marketing tools, you stay in class, you do the work, that you will book. And it always happens. Going back to Sean Connery, tenacity is everything. If you can stay in and have another job that supports you, and I love coaching, so that's a great job for me. And because I'm doing a master's, I got the opportunity to dig into a little bit of writing and producing a play, and I want to produce that as a film. So because of these other avenues, I think I'm more well-rounded, which helps me benefit more people. We're all in service, guys. If you can get that and understand we're all in service and what it's about is connecting with others, then you've got the piece of the pie.
Oh, so we've covered a lot of stuff today. I think it was a great discussion. I'd love to get your acting buddies on. You talked about Leonard. helped you out a lot. And also, I think, who else were you mentioning?
I have a group of friends in Atlanta that are great to work with. I love my coaches, Adam Stoner. He's great. He does work for Turner. He's kind of hard to find as a coach, so I'd have to recommend you. So anyone that wants to give some notes back to Nevada somehow and ask for that information, I can get it to you. There's other coaches, Rob Mello, the Company Acting Studio, that are great. I love to coach and I do one-on-one, but that's different than an environment of doing the full training. So if you want the full training, you should look at those avenues because you can get that full technique. It's going to take some effort, I'm not going to lie, but if you think you're coming into this work and you're beautiful, great. You may get a couple of things because of the beauty or because you're handsome, but eventually that's not going to stay if you don't know what to do on set, and that's also not going to stay. There's another great lady, too, who does camera work and has worked with PC&E locally, Terry. Can't think of her last name right now, but she's great because she's a camera woman and she gives some tools of how to work on set once you get there. These are all tools you need. You might get a couple of gigs, but if you don't stay in class and care about it enough, there's another beautiful girl or beautiful guy that can actually take your job eventually. So, and to plug a couple of other things, if Nevada will let me, there's a couple of new films that I'm working on that are coming out soon. Is that okay, Nevada?
Sure.
So, Truth or Dare, working with some great people. One of the kids, Miles, came from Teen Wolf, the star of that show. That was filmed locally. Ricardo, another great girl who's beautiful. Now I forgot her name. Sorry about that. And that's coming out. It's shooting still right now.
What was the name of that again?
That's called Truth or Dare. It might have been changed to Truth now, but because of legalities of other things called Truth. And then the other one is The Appeal, which we're getting ready to start shooting, and I'm opposite Bill Cobb, if you remember Air Bud, and he's also a regular on Oprah's Greenleaf, which is great. So if you get an opportunity to look at him, he's going to be the star of this new show called The Appeal, which should be great. I'm working on that several days and really looking forward to it. So keep your eyes on those two. Thanks.
The Appeal?
The Appeal, with Bill Cobb. And Truth or Dare.
And that one's 2017. The other one's 2019. They don't have a lot on IMDb about it, however. So
Yeah, because we were just starting production in June.
in July.
Well, yeah, it won't even be edited until July. And then the other show is the other film is due to come out 17, I believe. Did you say Truth comes out in 19 or 17? Truth or Dare?
2018, I think it was.
Okay.
Was the reference there to that one?
I didn't even know that, but
2018 for Truth or Dare.
Okay, great. Truth or Dare 2018 does take some editing time, but we're shooting right now. So.
Well, if you wanted to catch Victoria in any of those particular movies, you can keep an eye on IMDb, and hopefully are these going straight to...
No, they're going to be out in the theater.
Out in the theater, so you'll get a glimpse of Victoria there. If you wanted to comment, please go ahead and leave a comment below, and we can respond to those. So if you're looking for some contacts in the Atlanta area as far as getting into acting, we can certainly do that for you. I really appreciate you being on today, Victoria, and I look forward to talking with some of the acting friends that you have in Atlanta area and maybe doing a future podcast if that's okay.
Okay, that sounds great. I look forward to it. Nice to meet you all.
All right, thanks. Great. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.